These are the assembly instructions for my hinged ornament. The construction of the ornament is done in 2 halves and it's hinged in the center. So for each half, you're going to have 8 of these sections and 16 of them in all. So I've already decorated 7 of them. I'm just decorating the 8th one. I'm folding down on the score line that's at the bottom and the score line for the tab at the side. There's another score line here. I'm not folding down on it. And then I'm folding down on these little tiny tabs that are on one side. And then I'm putting my piece down on my mat using the edge of my bone folder. And I'm just trying to smooth out the curved edge. So this is cut out of white 80-pound cardstock. And then I have my decorative part that is cut out of silver glitter cardstock. I'm putting glue all over the back of it and I'm just applying it and trying to center it as best I can between the 3 edges and the score line at the bottom. So now I have 8 pieces, which are identical. In the file, you'll find 4 of these large octagon pieces. I'm going to use one of them. So I'm just putting glue on that bottom tab on one of my decorated pieces. And I'm gluing it to the perimeter of my octagon. I want the edge and the score line to be at the points of my octagon. And I want the score line for the tab of my decorated piece to be right along the edge of my larger shape. I'm going to grab another one of my decorated pieces and I'm just placing it right beside the one that I've just glued in. The score line on the tab is right on the edge of my larger shape. And then I'm putting glue on the side tab of that first piece that I glued in and the first 4 tabs on the edge of my second piece that I've glued in. I want the edge of my first piece to follow the score line of the tabs for my second piece. So once the glue's taken, I'm putting glue on the rest of those tabs. And then I'm curving my piece so that it fits nicely. So I want the tops to be even. So the edges balloon out a little bit. Like so. And so now I'm going to put glue on the 3rd piece and I'm going to slip it in beside my 2nd piece. So I'm making sure that my score line is even with the point on my octagon and that my score line is right up against the edge of my piece. And then I'm putting glue on the tab that's on my 2nd piece and then glue on the first 4 small tabs on the side of my 3rd piece. And then I'm just gluing it all into place. So now I'm putting glue on the remaining tabs. It's easier to go from the inside sometimes. I'm putting glue on the remaining tabs on my 3rd piece. And I want that cut edge to follow the score line of my tabs. I'm going to continue along with all 8 sides and all 8 pieces and just gluing them into place. So now I'm down to the last one, putting glue on that bottom tab and just inserting it along the edge like I've been doing all along. And then I'm putting glue on the tab and then I'm going to put glue on the 2nd tab as well. Adhering both those tabs. I'm putting glue on the first 4 of those little tabs on both sides and I'm tucking them inwards. I'm pinching from the inside and making sure that those tabs are in place. And then I'm going to go in and put glue on the rest of those tabs. So on both sides of that piece that I'm trying to glue in, both sides of the part that's still open. And so I want the cut line to be right against the score line. And I'm just pushing this part outwards on both sides, nice and even. And that creates my dome. So this is my top piece. For my bottom piece, I'm going to assemble it exactly the same way. However, I'm going to leave one of my decorative pieces blank. I'm going to decorate 7 of these and leave one of these blank. I have both my halves done. This is my top and this is my bottom. So I'm going to start with the bottom one. So this is the one that has a missing decorative panel. I have this piece that looks like a sun. Now there's no cutouts in it. There's just the shape with the score lines all around the perimeter, and I'm just folding down on all those score lines, and that's going to create 8 tabs for me. And then I have a piece of glitter cardstock. I'm just gluing it to the center of my sun shape like so. And then I'm going to take my bottom piece, putting glue all along the 8 tabs that are on the perimeter. And then I'm lowering my piece down into the center. So from the inside, I'm placing my piece so that that decorative piece is centered as much as possible. I'm just going in there and pressing down on all 8 of those tabs. And so then I have these contrasting pieces. I have 16 of them, 8 of them for my bottom half and 8 of them for my top half. So for all 8 pieces, I'm going to cover them in glue. I'm carefully inserting each one, and so that just gives the interior a more finished look. So once you've glued them all in, there's a final centerpiece to put at the bottom. I cut this one out of glitter cardstock, and I'm just fitting it in like so. So next I'm going to move on to the top piece. So this is the top part of my ornament. So I'm just folding down on all the score lines. There's the octagon in the center, then there's these triangles on one side of each one of these panels. And then there's a score line at the top, and you want to fold down on those to create the tabs at the end. And then I have some decorative pieces for it. I've cut these out of gold foil craft board, and I'm just gluing them down in between the score lines. You have the tab, and then you have that panel. And I have 8 of them to glue down. All right, so now that it's decorated, I'm just putting glue on a triangle that's between my 2 panels, and then I'm tucking it under, and I want the cut edge of the neighboring panel to be along the score line of my tab. And I'm working my way around the shape, doing exactly the same thing with all 8 triangles, just putting glue on them and then tucking them under so that the cut edge is right along the score line. So next I have a small octagon. So I have 8 tabs on the bottom. I'm going to put glue on one of those 8 tabs. I'm just lining up my octagon so that it's right against the score line of that tab. And then I'm putting glue on the 7 other tabs. And then I'm placing my octagon so that the edges of my octagon are along the score lines of those tabs. And then I'm putting those tabs down on my craft mat. I'm going in there with my bone folder and I'm spreading the glue. And so then I have some more of that gold craft board. This octagon has a cutout in the center. I'm just gluing it to a larger octagon with the same cutout. I'm just making sure that those center cutouts are exactly on top of one another. And then I'm putting glue on the perimeter of my top piece and gluing my decorated octagon to it, like so. And then I have circular pieces with little tails on them. I have 2 cut out of white and they have a score line on them. I'm just folding on that score line. So I'm putting glue on the back of one of those pieces and gluing the other one right on top of it. I'm making sure that those edges are completely even. And then I have my foil pieces. So I'm putting glue on the back of one of my foil pieces. And I'm gluing it on top of one side of that white cardstock. So the bottom of it should be just at that score line. I'm putting glue on the other one as well and gluing it to the other side, like so. Next, I'm taking the top of my ornament. I'm inserting the tail of my rounded pieces into the cutout that's in the center of my piece. So then I have this shaped piece with that exact same cutout in the center. I'm just folding down on the score lines for it. I have the top of my ornament, which I'm flipping over, putting glue on all 8 of those tabs. And much like for the bottom, I'm positioning it over the hole at the bottom, and I'm just flipping my piece over again and just making sure that that centerpiece is nicely aligned in the octagon. I'm adhering the 8 tabs to the walls. I have my topper piece. I've flipped my piece upside down and I'm putting glue all around the perimeter of that octagon. And then I'm carefully threading those 2 white pieces into the cutout that is the top of my ornament, like so. I'm applying pressure from inside and just making sure that that glue takes. I'm putting glue both sides of those tabs opening them up, and then just gluing them down. I have the same liner pieces for my top half as I did for my bottom half, so I'm just covering them with glue and gluing them to the top of my ornament. So now that I've put all those panels on the interior, I'm just going to glue the octagon to the bottom. So I've got 2 of these octagonal pieces left, and I'm just putting glue on them and adhering them on both my halves like so. And this is just to reinforce that piece, make it nice and solid. So next I have these 2 strips. So there are 4 score lines on each strip. So I've already glued down half the decorative strips. I'm just going to glue down the rest of them. I'm just trying to keep them centered between the edges and the score lines. So next I'm putting glue on one of the tabs and then gluing my 2 strips together. Then I have this platform that has a semicircle at the bottom and a tab at the top. And I've cut this piece out of holographic cardstock. I have my little house piece, and there are 2 little score lines right after the Christmas trees, and there's score lines at the bottom for the tabs that are at the bottom. So these tabs fit into the zigzag cutouts that are on my panel. So I'm just inserting the tabs into the cutouts. I'm just putting glue on those tabs and then gluing them down to the underside of my base piece. And then I have the piece that I've cut out of acetate. So this is cricket acetate, so it has a liner on both sides. I've scored my little tabs, I've just folded down on them, and I'm putting red line tape on the back and the front of those tabs. Then I have Santa and his reindeer, which I've cut out of adhesive foil. And I'm just going to apply him to my piece of acetate. I'm inserting these 2 tabs into the 2 tabs that are at the back of my platform. And then I'm removing the liner from one side of my tabs, and then making sure that Santa is standing up straight. I'm just going to adhere them to the bottom of my platform. And I'm removing the liner on the other side of those tabs, putting glue all over the bottom of my platform. So I've got the tab on my platform at the back, and the houses are facing me at the front. I'm just slipping it under the semicircle. And I want there to be an even border all the way around, like so. And so then I have my second panel. I've already inserted the gift card. I'm just putting glue along the perimeter and along the center. I don't want to interfere with the little tabs that are holding the gift card. And then I'm gluing down my gift card panel on the opposite side. So I'm looking at my panel and putting glue on the tab. I've got my bottom piece with the side that is not decorated away from me. I'm folding the tab under, and I'm placing my panel on top. I'm trying to make it so that there's an even border all the way around. I've tucked my tab underneath. Now I'm going to open it up and just pinch on that tab, make sure that I'm reinforcing that glue. So next I'm taking the strips that I've decorated. I've decided this is going to be the front. You want the circle facing towards you, like so. I'm skipping the first panel on my strip, and then I'm putting glue on the panel right beside it. So you'll see a very faint score line below my decorative panel. So you're gluing this between the score lines and just below the score line that's above it, like so. So I'm putting a bead of glue at the top of the next one, and then putting glue between the score lines just at the bottom portion, gluing this down like so. So I'm just working around the top half of my ornament, gluing in that strip like so. So as I'm gluing down these panels, I'm going to insert my hinge piece. So the front of my box has that circle facing me. So the back of that circle is going to be the panel where I'm going to have the hinge. So this is my hinge piece. I'm just folding it in half at the score line. So I'm putting glue on one half, not quite all the way up to the score line, because I want to glue this down, and it has to have a little tiny gap at the bottom, like so. So now that I have the hinge piece on, I'm going to continue gluing down my strip. I'm putting a bead of glue on the top of my hinge piece, and then glue on the bottom of the panel that I'm gluing it to, and then gluing it in place. Then gluing down the next panel the same way. I'm putting glue on the top half of that tab and gluing it down. Then I'm gluing down that first panel that I skipped. Just putting a bead of glue on the top and all along the area where I'm gluing it down. The panel that isn't decorated is away from me at the top. And I've got my hinge piece away from me also at the top. I'm just lowering my top over my bottom piece. I'm putting glue on the underside of my hinge piece and then just gluing it down. And then I have my decorative piece that I get to glue down into place. So I'm just putting glue all over it and then just gluing that piece down.